got to tell you, when it comes to fantastic finishes, this was it. The final hand of event number 35 of the 2012 World Series of Poker. His opponent moves all in with a straight. This guy stands up and screams, "I call straight flush, baby." Lets out a scream worthy of any ever given in the history of this vaunted tournament. What a way to finish the stone cold nuts. No fluke either. This guy can play. He's got a bracelet, of course, more than 100 cashes in his tournament career, including 10 WSOP cashes and 3 final tables. He's a player, folks. Chris Tryba, our high roller today. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks, man. You make it exciting to be here. Huh? It already.
Well, I got to tell you, I watched that final table live online, straight flush. Can you relive that hand and that moment for us?
Well, thanks to you. I just did. It just kind of brought it back, flooding in. It was pretty amazing. The heads-uppers with Erik Cajelais. He's a really nice guy. I think he looks a lot tougher than he really is. I think he's a big teddy bear. But
Erik Cajelais owns a club in Montreal. He's well known in Canada. Of course, he's well known on the tournament circuit. The guy's a cash game player. He's an Omaha player. He's done well at the World Series before. So congratulations to you for not only getting heads up, but then beating this guy. He's a tough guy to beat. But go on. Tell us about that straight flush.
It was pretty amazing. The final table was pretty fast and furious until we got like 3 or 4 handed, and then I just thought it was going to be a real battle because we're all evenly stacked. And I got pretty fortunate 3-handed in the limit section to get a lot of chips, and then things just happened. I just got whacked by the deck, and I was just on the good side of variance, and it was kind of exciting. I mean, I didn't expect. I really expected a long heads-up battle. I didn't know much about Erik. I've never played with Erik, but I knew just by the way he played the final table that he was there to win. He wasn't, giving anything away, and he wasn't really taking a lot of chances. So I just got really fortunate that he had a big hand and I had a big hand, and I'm really kind of happy it only lasted 4 hands. It goes longer than that. Anything can happen, and like I said, I just got on the good side of variance.
Yeah, I mean, any final table can go 8 to 10 hours sometimes. When you get heads up, you're looking 3-4 hours possibly. But again, 4 hands in. Both guys have big hands. Do you remember the hand, how it played out?
It was the river. I had the 10-9. Now I can't stop playing the old 10-9 suit. If I get it, I'm playing it. It just doesn't matter. But yeah, it was 4 hands. I was in the small blind. He raised. There was the no limit section, which was playing smaller than the limit section. And, I called and I flopped middle pair, which I thought was a good chance of being the best hand, but I didn't see any reason to blow up the pot. We were so deep. And the turn, I turned the open-ended straight flush. And, the river, I hit chin, and, I led into him hoping that, he'd either light it off or, either he had a hand or, I knew he was good enough to, just light it up if he didn't have a hand because it looked kind of bluffy. And fortunate for me, he had a hand, and he lit it up. And it's just pretty incredible, having this guy. And I knew he was going to shove, too. I've watched the recap a few times. I just knew I was, nodding to my buddies in the stands. Once I led, and I knew once he was going to light it up that it was going to be for the whole thing because he couldn't really, min re-raise because he was just too short. I knew he just had the right stack that if he was going to re-raise, it had to be all in.
That's a dream, isn't it?
It was pretty unbelievable. It already seems like it's been forever ago. It's only been 2 or 3 months, but it's a pretty cool experience. No matter what happens here on out, they can never take that away. For one day, one moment, I'm a bracelet winner. That's just pretty cool, and it's pretty exciting. It's really cool. I think it's the only time in history that anyone ever won a bracelet with a straight flush.
I think it is, man. It's unbelievable.
I think it has to be. I mean, that's historic.
Would you describe your game for our listeners? Are you a specialist in one, or do you like them all?
I like a lot of different games. Limit is really my niche. I started playing at Foxwoods a long time ago, and we didn't even have. There was no limit. There was no limit until 2003. Very, very small pockets of the country had no limit in mostly really big games. They didn't have 1, 2, and 2-5 no limit. It just didn't exist. And we really didn't even have limit hold'em. There was 100 tables at Foxwoods. Maybe 10 tables were, that crazy limit game from California. That's what they're playing over there, We had stud and stud and stud. And so that's, really what I started playing. I'm really grateful for that because I think it's easier to go in other directions with that as your base as opposed to all the younger kids coming in with no limit, it's really hard to go to other games because it's completely different. And, you know, I spent a lot of years playing stud, and that's probably still truly my first love and my favorite game to play. I just have a real understanding of it.
By the way, are you at Foxwoods now? I know I've interrupted a cash game.
No, I just bought a house in Colorado in the mountains, and there's part of the reason why I bought a house here. You know, coming through here the last 3 or 4 years, there's a great 30-60 limit game here. So I've always just kept my eye on real estate here, and I just kind of like fell into this opportunity that is just unbelievable.
What does it take to be a player of your status and have the success you've had? Because not only the Bracelet, but the World Series success, but you've done it over a number of years as well. What does it take?
Well, it takes a total commitment. Like, you know, I've made a lot of sacrifices. You know, I've had other jobs that just didn't feel like what I was going to do for my whole life, and ever since I started poker, I always kind of thought it's just what I was going to do. I don't know, I had a really deep feeling for poker. I love the game, and I just always wanted to get better, so I spent, you know, a lot of years trying to get better. When online was huge, I studied and worked with a lot of much better players than myself with no limit, and you know, to try to grow, because that's, if you want to make money at poker, it's going to be in a no-limit tournament. It's not going to be in a stud tournament, unless it's the 5 or 10K stud at the World Series. You know, like one tournament a year is the only one that you're ever going to make any money at.
Do you set goals for yourself before each event? How do you approach a tournament?
I don't know. I go in and I play the hands that I'm dealt. You know, I kind of adjust on the fly. You know, you got to give yourself that opportunity. You got to get in the money, and then you got to move up in the money, and then you got to, you know, get to the final table. And then, like the first hand of that final table, I folded what I thought was probably the best hand, and it was the best hand. Cajelais opened from the very first hand. He opened under the gun. I flatted on the button with 2 10s, and sometimes I'd 3-bet there, but for some reason I just flatted. And the small blind moved all in, and Cajelais moved all in over the top, and I folded 2 10s face up, actually. And I kind of knew it was, Phil Ivey gave me this glance because I faded the flop, and I faded the turn, and I probably missed a really great shot to triple up right there. But you know what? I would have got nailed in the river. They both hit a queen. One had king queen and one had ace queen, or queen jack. That's what it was. Erik had king queen and the other guy had queen jack. And you know, I try not to be result oriented. It just felt like the right fold at the right time. So you know, a lot of times I'd never fold there for my life. You know, like I would 3-bet, and then the guy would 4-bet shove, and then I don't know what Erik would have done, and then I would have lost a smaller pot. But you know, I still would have lost the pot, and so I never really have a particular game plan. It kind of depends on what's going on and what the game is.
Hey, you mentioned Phil Ivey. Are you a buddy of his? And if so, can you tell us what makes him such a dominant force in this industry?
We're not buddies at all. You know, I've played with him a couple times, once a long time ago, and here and there. He skipped last year's World Series, so you know, we're not buddies at all. We're not even like on...
Well, you said he flashed you that glance, so I was just wondering.
Well, he's always paying attention to what's going on. That's what I really think is the key to his success. He's really just always dialed in. It's pretty amazing, actually.
That's a great phrase, dialed in. Listen, we're talking to Christopher Tryba, Bracelet winner. He's won more than $1.2 million in live tourneys over the course of his career. Great player. Chris, I always ask this because I always wonder, because it's never happened to me. You win a tournament, you make a big cash. What's it like going to that cashier's cage with that receipt that say, hey, give me all this money? What's that like?
You know, it sounds really weird, but money is just a tool. It really doesn't matter if it's like 200,000 or 50,000 or 30,000 or 5,000. It's just a tool to keep me, you know, plying my trade. And that's really how I look at money. I mean, you know, a lot of us in our industry are just kind of like...
You got no regard for it. I mean, it's a unit.
That's all it is. It sounds really weird, but it's just like, you know, and I'm always brought back to it. Like, you know, I'll go to pay for something with $100 bill, and they're like, oh my God, like $100 bill, like, wow, like, I have change for that. Like, say I had a cash at the Venetian for a pretty big amount a few summers ago, and they're like, how do you want this? I'm like, I don't know, in a bag. And they looked at me like, do you want security? I'm like, no. I don't know. I don't know. I just put it in a bag, and I walked to my car, and I went home and did what I had to do with it.
What's your view on the state of the game right now, state of poker?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I don't really know. Obviously, online's in flux. I think there's a lot more live tournaments, which is really cool because that's what's going to attract the newer players, the hobbyists, the people that are just playing for fun. I've been playing a lot here in Colorado. There's just an HPT here. I came in 23rd, and it was awesome to play here because they just love to play poker. It's not like all math and science and big blinds and M's and Harringtons and all that. They just play poker. 4 bets? I got 7-6 suited. 30% of my set. I don't care. They just play to have fun, and that's how it all started for me. And sometimes it gets kind of too serious now, and it's like, sometimes it's a little stressful.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Get back to that cash game, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for your time.